Chamber and the Hudson Business Association. So we had a good team and I know we got the right firm. So.
Yes, we did. What's that? Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Great to be here. We're going to go through a quick presentation so you can just get a quick overview of what the project is about and what we're going to be doing. We're here more to hear from you and your thoughts on this area and things we should be thinking about or past things that happened. We already know about the trees coming down, put that behind us, but anything else we should know about. To begin with, I'm Jeff Vassar. I'm with the BSC Group. BSC is a consulting firm, multidisciplinary firm. We have civil engineering, transportation engineering, landscape architecture, survey, anything to do with site design. We pretty much can do in-house. So I'm a landscape architect and a urban designer, and I'm the project manager for this. So as we go through this process, you may see me a few times as we come back with some ideas and some options and want your input on certain things. BSC is teamed with a firm called Kilson and Associates. Their strength is transportation planning and design. So they're real specialists on projects like this that involve some traffic and circulation, but specifically rotaries or roundabouts, whatever you want to call them. So they're real specialists on that. And the slide just lets you know, our team has a number of different disciplines. Again, both engineering, landscape architecture, survey, public outreach. We don't think wetlands are going to be much of an issue, but if they are, we have that in-house also. I just want to give you a quick overview, and if you want to come back to any of this, just let me know. But the things we're going to be looking at are also we need to understand the history of the area, how the Rotary area currently works. Reaching out to the public is a major part of this project, and we'll get into that in a little more detail. Obviously, the Rotary is surrounded by your downtown, so economic development is very important because we don't want to do anything to hurt economic development. If anything, we want to do things to help economic development. The primary part of this study, in our opinion, is really obviously looking at how the Rotary functions. So we've got mobility issues, whether it be bikes, pedestrians, vehicles. Public safety is always number one. And then there's the aesthetics. There's the streetscape elements that go there also. And then helping the town assist with implementation. You have a chunk of money to start this project. We're going to work with you. Maybe we can help you find more money. And then it's the whole, how do you manage construction in a very active space like this? All this is being done knowing you have a complete street policy, so you're going to be referring to that a lot. Just very quickly, these are some of the things we're going to be talking about today that we're building upon, and it would be good to get some of your input on these items. So we want to just to show you some of the things we're looking at. First of all, historically, how was this area used over the years? So I think this is our best solution right here. It should just be a free-for-all. Survival of the fittest.
Darwinism.
Obviously, it's been used for civic events. It's been used for civic events and still does. Obviously, there were trolleys that used to come through here, and now you have other forms of transportation. How is it currently being used? Obviously, it's a retail center, as we know. You have a great growing restaurant and kind of eatery environment here, where some of those businesses like to spill out into the sidewalk or next to the sidewalk area. Lower left, obviously you've got traffic coming through here. You've got all kinds of traffic coming through here. You've got people parking here. It's been made very clear to us from the start, no one wants to lose parking. That's a goal, but sometimes we may have to look at that and say, well, if you lose one or two here, it really has another benefit. But right now, our marching orders are no loss of parking. And then there's monuments in the area. There's a library. There's a lot of civic things happening here also. Then there's the nitty-gritty operation of what happens here. It's the fact that the bridge is going to be reconstructed, and that project is going to have improvements up towards the Rotary. So we need to coordinate with Mass DOT on their improvements and what comes out of this process. You've got businesses that need to be serviced. They need to unload goods. Is that going to happen in the Rotary area? Is there another way that can happen? Because a truck like that with a sitting there and unloading for who knows how long can be very disruptive. Obviously, public safety, we have to make sure you guys can get through there, fire, police, emergency vehicles, anything like that. That's one of our primary concerns. And then you have, obviously, signage. People need to know what they're coming into, where they're going, how to get in and out of the Rotary, and then if there's any sort of special events, sometimes you promote those, and how we're going to be able to accommodate that. Pedestrian circulation, obviously key to the area and economic vitality, from simple things such as on the upper right, making curb cuts handicap compliant so that they're safe. There's pedestrian connections from the Rotary through some of these alleys to the parking lots off of the Rotary area. We want to make sure those are safe and utilized as much as possible so people park back there and filter up to the Rotary. And then the crosswalks, do we have large islands still, like on the right, where we call them refuge areas as people are crossing. There's shorter ones on the left, which means it's a shorter crosswalk, but the refuge area becomes shorter also. These are all things we're going to be looking at in the design process, which will be on the Kittleson side. But then we need to think towards the future. Obviously, you've had community events here. You've got a great bicycle community. You're being known as that, but bicyclists don't like coming to Rotary. I think we don't know why. But how much we want to accommodate that, how close can we get them in a safe way, accommodate them over there. And as we said, public outreach is a major component of what we're doing. We, as Christina said, we have a steering committee. We met with them earlier in the week. We're going to be meeting with them monthly. And we're also going to have public workshops. The schedule for those just got finalized this morning. That they want early September or late September and then October. We're also doing things with social media. There's a Facebook page Christina's working on. We're going to do, hopefully, some displays in some of the storefronts in the area. So a whole variety of ways of getting input into the process. So if any of you hear anything, I'm going to put the burden on Christina. She can kind of be the one that collects information and gives it to us. But
sign up for the newsletter. We're doing a project newsletter. So we'll be able to disseminate updates on the project to a mass audience. The more the better.
Yeah, the more the better. More info we get.
Just email me and I'll add you.
We've actually started our public input process. Christina and I went to Community Fest. They had a table there. You can see us on the upper left looking happy and engaged. On the right stage, on the upper right, we had a map there and people wrote comments on Post-it notes and put them on an aerial photograph of the project area. And these bullet points are a summary of what some of the people wrote down and gave us as feedback already. The best one is people do not like Rotaries. So what are we going to do? So we got to deal with a lot of different opinions here. I'm going to turn it over to Andy Paul now. So I should have introduced you. Andy Paul's with Kittleson on our team. Connor is also with Kittleson. They're with us here today. And Andy's going to talk about some of the traffic and mobility related things.
Sure.
Hey, Jack. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Jack.
Hey, Jim.
So at a national level, Kittleson has worked on roundabouts throughout the country, over 500 in the U.S. and Canada. The bottom right is NCHRP Report 672. It's a research publication that now stands as like the national design standard for roundabouts in the U.S. as far as geometrics, operational analysis, everything that goes into designing a roundabout. Kittleson worked on the research for that and wrote that document. Then locally, we've worked on projects. Most of these were for Mass DOT. In Malden, Falmouth, Chatham. Lexington was for the city of Lexington, but with a project that was being funded by Mass DOT. And a lot of the issues that you heard in a short amount of time from the public are similar to the themes that we've heard both at these public meetings and at all of the roundabouts that Kittleson has built in other parts of the country. I think what's most unique about Massachusetts is that there's over 100 rotaries that have been in place, like the one here at Hudson, for decades and decades. Whereas if you go out to Colorado, where now they have over 800 roundabouts, those roundabouts have just been built in the last 10 years. And just like if you built the signal in the last 10 years, it's modern, it's got all the bells and whistles. These rotaries are older and could stand for some updates to them that happen to fall into this design guidance. So we'll be using this material to develop the alternatives. but at the same time, use our experience locally, dealing with communities that have roundabouts in their communities to hopefully get the message across. From the data collection standpoint, we were out there a couple weeks ago, or the traffic data collection company was taking counts. Some pretty high volume roads. You got 23,000, 22,000. That's about the upper limit of what a single lane, two-lane roadway will handle. But fine, they seem to operate well. There may be some opportunities for improvement. And the geometrics at the Rotary is something that we're going to look at specifically. But Jack and Christina have been very clear that this is not an operational, this is not like we did on 85 further down, we're adding lanes and trying to get monster trucks through there. We need to accommodate the vehicles that are going through there now, after the improvements are made. But then we also need to accommodate the traffic that's there now. And what's unique about this is a lot of times when you're doing pre-post analysis, the existing condition is a signal or stop control intersection. In this case, it's actually a circular intersection. So the operation, although different somewhat, will be pretty similar to what it is today. Hopefully actually more efficient. And then we looked at specific peak hours, so morning peak hours from 7:45 to 8:45 on this specific day in June. These are the turning movements. We'll use these turning movements to run the operational analysis through a software program, but then at the same time use handwritten equations that are in the report that we showed earlier to look at, okay, well, based on these volumes that were taken on this one day in June, what's the likely outcome if we were to rebuild this with modern standards? And so they compare that to what operational outcomes there are at roundabouts throughout the U.S. And there's kind of graphs that you use, and you can project on what the delay will be and how long the line of cars will be getting into the intersection. So this was just collected recently. We'll now start to dive into the analysis part of the project. This is the PM peak hour. The heavier of the two, actually, if you look at peak hour to peak hour. And I think what's going to be where there's going to be the biggest opportunities, if you look at the bottom left, there's a 710 vehicles coming from 85 making that left at the roundabout. That's the highest of any of the volumes for a specific movement. And they're going to be crossing in front of that Main Street approach, which has about a little over 500. And so that's where all of the peak hour analysis at that entrance with those circulating vehicles, the most vehicles want to be in the same place at the same time. So kind of back of the napkin, the 710 vehicles will have priority, so there'll be some cars that have to wait on Main Street in front of the creamery. What the operational analysis will show is just how long that queue may be. So, but we're not there yet. So this area is also influenced by much more than just the traffic at the circle and trying to get through. It's part of a downtown network. The bridge project is obviously very important, as well as the parking. There was a parking study done last year by Hudson, using a consultant called Nelson Nygaard, and they do parking studies and they do them very well. What they found was the most important parking in all of Hudson is at this Rotary. People want to park at this Rotary, and it was very clear in there. So we'll look at use and abuse, how long people are parking there, and are they parking appropriately, and then make some assessments off of that. I think it'll be trade-offs, 1 or 2 spots here, but maybe there could be opportunities to add spots in other places that are not far from the downtown, or maybe even in the downtown. So the bridge project, these plans are from Mass DOT. We're coordinating with them on the bridge project, the timing of it, and the impacts to the network. And I'll have another slide that'll show more about that. So the bridge project, the planking in the town. If you look at the entire town map, sorry about the resolution on this one, there are facilities that the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission looked at, surveying all the roads in Hudson and other abutting communities, and said, all right, where could there be opportunities where cars are already going slow, bikes can just share the road? And they labeled those as one type of facility. Where are there opportunities where maybe there's enough shoulder width for those facilities when you go back and restripe the roadway? A bike lane could be added to that road. And they all led to downtown, but none of these labels went through this Rotary. It's kind of a no man's land where you don't really, maybe go up on the sidewalk, maybe you can share the road, and parking was important. But you'll have I'll turn it back over to you, Jeff, but let me just touch on the bridge project one more time. Where there could be opportunities is working with Mass DOT, trying to get in front of their schedule. Is one of the goals that we've been tasked with, to complete our design and construction before they start, so that we're out of the way and done and not tied to some other date that is still unknown. You know, it's a year and they have a month there, they want to do a bulk of the work, but the more we can get done in front of that, the better. So our schedule is somewhat expedited, where we're going to be doing a lot of this operational analysis and design in the next few months, and hopefully going out to construction advertisement sometime early next year, and then maybe even construction in 2017. So
Nothing on the bridge project, and there's no guarantees of this, but in our design of the Rotary area, if there are changes to curb alignments, et cetera, that transition into the project area that Mass DOT is doing, again, being ahead of them, we can say, could you adjust your curb in this location to a new location to the project to what we're going to be doing?
Just to add that Mass DOT has been provided the scope of work that our consultants are doing, so they're very familiar with this project and our desire to be out of the way and not tied to their project at all.
So just to wrap things up, as I mentioned earlier, we're here to help you with everything, and that's also helping implement the project, whether it's looking for additional dollars to help with this. But also what's very important, and this is on the lower right from a project in Pittsfield that we did, is, construction happening around active businesses can be very disruptive to those businesses. And there needs to be a public outreach component at the end of the design process that lets the public know, the business owners know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, who's going to be impacted. And in Pittsfield, there were daily updates on the website, so a business or a customer could go online and say, okay, today they're going to be redoing the sidewalk in front of this business. I know it's going to impact me. Is there another way I can, we obviously have to accommodate people getting in and out of business, but how is that going to be accommodated? So we're aware of that also. It isn't just, here's the plans, good luck. It's, here are the plans, and let's make sure we minimize disruption.